This is 93.5 CHMR FM.
Hello and welcome to Rustling Pages. I'm Chris Russell.
And I'm Max Page. Thank you for tuning in tonight on CHMR 93.5 FM.
Yeah, so tonight we've got a lot of special guests. After the break, we're going to be talking to Warren and Chelsea from The Party that comes on Saturday nights on CHMR. And at the half hour, we're going to be talking to the winners of the Executive Director of Finance and Services and Campaigns positions, Devin Grant and Robert Leamon. We'll be hearing a little bit about their campaign experiences, their plans for next year, and a little more about the election process in general. But what do we got first, Max?
Well, first we have the highly anticipated part 2 of the student occupation in the Arts and Admin building from 1973. So the way we're going to do it is we're just going to start the little video and you sit back, relax, and enjoy the sound of my voice. Sorry about that, I just had a little yawn. So this is part 2 of the occupation from the outside, from Ian Wiseman. This is a story about how Memorial students had occupied the Arts and Administration building in 1973, and how students basically came together in the end, without any form of centralized pressure, that being said, and how they managed to mobilize from this. Just before I start, a quick shout out to Samson, my roommate. I stole your hat, bro. Sorry. My head was cold this morning. I'll try to get it back before you wake up. So, part 2 of the occupation from the outside by Ian Wiseman. The last thing we were talking about was that 1,500 students have succeeded in taking over the building, and now it's on to the first night of the movement. Whew. The first night saw about 500 students in the building, closing all entrances except for the main front entrance with wires and chairs. There was live music entertainment continuously, supplemented by card games, chess, coffee, and chit-chat. The morning, wet and foggy, brought headaches in more ways than one. Taylor refused to meet any students' representatives until they gave back the building, leaving student negotiators in an impossible bind. The two administration go-betweens, Robert Verdi and Doug Eaton, who, along with 3 main security forces, were the only non-students allowed in the building, found themselves in a similar position. The occupying students were faced with the first crisis that afternoon as commerce students with classes in the building demanded that the professors be allowed in to teach. After a show of hands proved that many of the occupying force were attending classes in other buildings, there were unanimous agreements that faculty be allowed in the administration building. The day-to-day educational process was not to be interfered with by a student administration quarrel. That second evening provided to be the turning point. The microphone Machiavellians building student political careers on rhetoric mouths and a captive audience lost control of the little stage to the students who previously had little to say. Organizations won over chaos, and for 4 hours people participated fully in debate on the political structure of the university. As the overall picture became clear, the essential tactics to win their cause became clear. The upshot of the session was a committee hierarchy that would take care of the demonstrators' every need in the days to come. An adhocracy, as Alvin Toffer would call it, was set up with the Student Negotiations Committee at the top. There were committees for everything: a food service committee to buy, bag, and cook meals, a security committee to ensure that only faculty and students entered the building, an entertainment committee to obtain a stage and music and movies, and a cleanup committee to keep the building in livable shape, and an information committee to ensure that general student body was kept informed on the latest developments. Growing more fatigued by the hour, the negotiations committee met again that night to figure out where they stood. There was Charnier himself, an unknown Memorial until he had begun to speak at the open meetings, Bob Buckingham, the academics chairman of the student council who had been fighting for academic rights for years, Dave McCurdy, associate editor of the Muse, the campus paper which had always been in the vanguard of left politics, and Wayne Hurley, then acting president of the student council who had been a counselor for only 1 month. Becoming weary, they sat down with the administration. Men in the squeeze, Vardy, and Eaton and hammered out a compromise. They were willing to elect their members to the little-used Student Affairs Committee and let that body make the decision on the collection of fees. Taylor, still adamant in refusing to talk to students, received the proposal from Eaton, Dean of Student Services, and rejected it outright. Taylor's singular refusal to accept the students' compromise turned the demonstrators' determination to stone, and the media cemented the walls of a stalemate, with public opinion supporting the students. Outside support was pouring from all sides. Telegrams came from a dozen student councils across the country, from as far away as Simon Fraser in British Columbia. The striking bus drivers' local unions sent in the letter of support, and the president of the Student Council of Newfoundland College of Trades and Technology voiced his support at the general meeting. Deciding that students' rights to self-determination had been flagrant and unconstitutionally violated, St. John's branch of the Human Rights Association took up the student cause. Even a fisherman from the small village of St. George drove to the city to talk to students and give support. Now we see this movement building, snowballing, picking up steam. I'm going to stop here and then take on the next 2 more sections afterwards. I think this story is incredibly important and cool. Now we see all the different unions and support coming from all kinds of different means other than just from the students. And stay tuned for the surprise ending, and you can guess kind of what happens. So thank you. I'm going to make another video here shortly. Bing.
Oh my gosh, that's so interesting. It is though. I think it's a really cool story, really interesting stuff. It's all about our student capacity to make change, and I hope you're all looking forward to next week as much as I am.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. I like that story, Max, because anyone who says that the students or student movement can't really do anything, I mean, read that story and it'll tell you otherwise. So we're going to go to break now, and when we get back, we'll be talking to Warren and Chelsea from the party. So we'll see you then.
Do you find that MS Word, PowerPoint, or Excel are slowing you down with your assignments? Did you know that the Commons provides one-on-one tutorials free of charge to students, faculty, staff who are attending or working at Memorial? To find out more, you can visit the Commons on the 2nd floor of the QE2 library, or visit us at our website, thecommons.mon.ca.
Hey, this is Chris from Kings Destroy, and you're listening to CHMR FM 93.5, Newfoundland's only alternative. Why did you make it so ugly?
And we're back with Rustling Pages on CHMR 93.5. We are here with Chelsea and Warren from The Party. So, The Party has been on CHMR for 3 years. It has 2 nominations for Music NL. They've interviewed bands like Switchfoot, Plaskett, Hey Rosetta, but most importantly, The Party acts as an anchor for the local music scene. Now you can tune into The Party on CHMR 93.5 from 7 to 9 to listen to their show, or you can listen to the kind of like the remix version, the replay version, on Wednesday nights on Bell Island Radio 93.9. So thank you very much for coming on tonight.
Super happy to have you guys on the show.
We're super happy to be here.
Yes.
So this is, I like to think it's kind of new, because although where Chelsea and Warren are typically doing all these interviews themselves, now they finally get the turned on them. So before we start and talk about The Party and all this radio show business, could you just basically each kind of introduce yourselves a little bit more?
All right. Hi, my name is Chelsea Skanes. I'm a pre-social work student at MUN. Other than The Party, I am also the online content editor at The Muse. And that's basically, what I do on campus.
Student stuff.
And I'm Warren Gordon. I was at MUN for a little bit. I was doing the communications program. I got about halfway through, and wasn't my forte. So taking a year off, trying to figure things out. Hopefully getting into a journalism program outside of the province, because there's unfortunately nothing here in Newfoundland. But still doing The Party and still loving The Party. So.
No, that's great. That's great. So, how did you guys get started on CHMR doing the radio show? Well, Warren, I know you started on your own first, but how did it come about?
Well, I was doing a morning show for a bit when I first started out, and that was unenjoyable, because it was a morning show.
Yeah, fair enough.
And so I decided to grab this slot that was open up at the end of the semester, and it was Saturdays at 7 to 9. I was like, wow, that's like prime time, you know, Saturday, everybody's going out for a party. And, you know, I had to come up with a show name, and then it just came to me one day. I was just like walking around my house, I don't know, doing laundry or whatever, and just like the party, and I was like, that'll never work. And then like, anyway, just eventually it became the party, and then I did my first show on January 15th, 2011. And, yeah, it's from there, it was basically just like a request show, and, you know, sit around, wait for the phone to ring and that sort of thing. I did that for a bit, and then I brought Chelsea in to help out. I was bringing some friends in at that point to host every week, like a special guest host.
And I just never left.
And Chelsea just never left. So, and here we are today.
So Chelsea, so what is the party now since you've been involved?
Since I've been involved, I was kind of there for the request phase for a little while. Then we kind of started gravitating towards getting some local bands on, and for a little while that was kind of we were kind of having a hard time getting people on because we just didn't have the connections, I guess. But now, I guess within the last year or so, it's like people, instead of us trying to actively search out people, we have finally been able to get to the point where people, I guess, kind of know us. So it's nice to actually have people that want to come on the show, and I guess, you know, we're all about promoting local music. I mean, we interview national and international musicians occasionally, but usually 9 times out of 10 it's local. So
yeah, no, that's excellent and super interesting. So what's the dynamic between you guys as co-hosts?
Yeah, with us, we do kind of play 2 different parts. Right?
Yeah.
You couldn't be identical, or else what would be the fun in that?
Well, 99% of the time, I'm the one to start the show and, you know, be professional. Hey, this is the party, to get everybody pumped up. And then Chelsea comes in, hey, I'm Chelsea. And then we start talking about this and that. We talk about who's on the show and stuff like that. But I find myself more the professional side of the party, whereas Chelsea is...
What do you find? What side are you, Chelsea?
I'm like the Goofy to his Mickey Mouse.
Just to Mickey Mouse.
I don't know. I'm here to kind of keep things real, whereas Warren is kind of like professional. And I'm like,
that probably works out in the end, right? That probably makes things great. So what? So since the show has started, what kind of stuff? Or how did you even get involved? Like, what was that deciding factor that got you enough confidence to actually start going on the radio?
On the radio? I was listening to a couple shows on CHMR before. I think it was during that summer I heard an ad that said, you know, come volunteer at CHMR. And so I was at high school at that point, and once I got the MUN, I made it my goal. I was like, I'm going to go to CHMR, going to do the training. Finally, it was in October of my first semester at MUN. I said, you know, shag it, let's go. Go to CHMR, do the training. Took a buddy of mine, we went in and we did the training. Bam, way to go. There's no like trouble at all to get in and do the training whatsoever. And yeah, so but once we got into the room and, you know, started for our first show, I was a nervous wreck. And I was never the type of person to want to, you know, talk in public and that whole thing. I mean, who likes public speaking anyway, right? Right, but like I was a bag of nerves on the air, and but then like as it progressed, it took me a while to get into the groove of it, but now I'm like super confident. Like I can come in here and talk to you guys,
definitely,
no problem, right? And it's crazy how after 3 years, it's like I've become like a completely different person.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like so much time has gone by, and then you think back on things and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how like different the show is now as to when it started. And we're 2 totally different people than when it started.
Yeah.
So
like I used to stutter on air.
Yeah.
And like I just, you know, I would come in with like a script and I would like read the script and I'd be like, this isn't right. Right? So I just kind of wing it. And now that's what we do every Saturday is we just sit down and we're winging it.
Yeah, having a chat.
So I wish we could wing it. I wish we could wing it a little. We're usually pretty structured with it.
Yeah.
But okay, so you guys have been doing the show now for 3 years.
Yeah.
So you're pretty comfortable with it. You're not facing too many challenges. But to get here, what have been some of the biggest challenges that you guys have run into with?
Maybe we could start with you, Chelsea.
Yeah, I guess my own discomfort at first of being on air, because I mean, I came in here as a high schooler. I had no idea what was on the go, and I mean, I enjoyed acting, but being behind a microphone is completely different, believe it or not. But I don't know, I guess another big challenge, as we kind of went through, was that issue with trying to get people on air, because we went through a phase where it was always people we knew, it was always our friends, and finally it took us a while to kind of build that repertoire, people who know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. So I guess that was probably the biggest challenge we had to overcome, in my opinion.
And how did you go about overcoming that? It was through networking, essentially?
Yeah, networking was a big thing. It was kind of a band would come in and say, hey, there's this other band that we should get in. And then this other band would come in and they'd say, oh, there's these 3 other bands that I'm a part of. And that sort of thing. That happened. So there was that part of it. And then there was also where we got nominated for our Music and L Awards, I should say, back in November. And then we started meeting people out in Gander at the conference out there.
Yeah, and then it was a complete influx.
And it was just we joined that community, and it was, it exploded, really.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, that's excellent. What is probably some of your guys' best memories?
Big bands, little bands.
I want to tell this story because it's probably my favorite story from the party. Last October, November, we had set up an interview with Switchfoot, and anyway, with the Jigs and Reels, they ended up being really late to do their sound check. So anyway, we were supposed to interview them at 2, and I was supposed to work till 6. Anyway, Warren and one of our friends who was going to do the interview in our place were there for basically 4.5 hours. And finally, I got off at 6, and Warren had told me, because I work downtown, Warren told me that, they still hadn't interviewed them. So I rushed to the venue, and basically as soon as I got there, we were getting ready to go in to interview them. So I ended up being able to do the interview. We ended up being able to do it together.
That's so
which was,
good.
just however things worked out was just flawless.
Yeah, it was just meant to be type thing, right? And the guys were really great and really down to earth, and we hope they come back.
For sure.
So I want to ask really quickly before we run out of time, what goes into it behind the scenes? It's not just necessarily an hour. I mean, we can joke about winging it, but there is a lot that goes into it. Is there not?
The party isn't just us anymore.
Yeah.
It used to be just me and Chelsea, but it's not. There is a huge team behind it. We'd like to shout out to Tara Thompson, who does our graphic design and website and video. We'd like to shout out to Tori Pollard, who was doing our pictures for a bit, and now Heather Nolan, who is doing a great job on our pictures.
Yeah.
And she's super amazing. Check her out, facebook.com, I think it's /Heather Nolan Photography.
Yeah. I mean, Warren spends hours trying to get people in on the show, sending out emails, responding emails.
I do all the social media.
Videos, putting together videos.
Yep.
Cutting down stuff for the party replay. Just there's so much stuff. I mean, you think it's only 2 hours, but
it's almost a full-time job.
It's almost a full-time job. So
I appreciate you doing it. And I imagine a lot of bands really appreciate what you guys have done for them in the past, and I'm sure people want to give you a big thanks for what you're doing.
So now one more question before we let you shamelessly plug your show, and
sure,
and then we'll go to break. So what advice would you give to newcomers on the radio, or people considering the show, or considering starting their own show? What advice would you give to the newcomers? I mean, you guys are pretty much the veterans around CHMR, so.
Just do it.
Yeah, I mean, find, I guess, something you enjoy doing, something you like talking about, some type of music that you like, and then just make a show out of it, whether it's an hour, 2 hours, half an hour, there's no shame in it.
Yeah, no. just go for it.
Yeah.
Do it 100%.
Okay, I have a question now, and it's just, it could be whatever your answer is, it doesn't matter, there's no right or wrong answer, but it would be that if you knew that everyone in the whole world was going to listen to a song of your choice, all at the same time, or whatever, what would that song be?
Between both of us?
No, you can each pick one.
Okay.
Okay. You go.
Barbie Girl. By Aqua.
Aqua?
Barbie Girl by Aqua.
It's so happy. I just want a happy song that everybody can hear, even if they're upset.
Yeah. I like Extraordinary by Joel Plaskett. I think that's a song that represents us as a radio show and like who we've interviewed and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it's one of my favorite Plaskett songs, so.
Yeah,
I love that. And Plaskett is coming tomorrow night at the
Breezeway, 7 o'clock.
Get on out.
I didn't just pick that song just for that show tomorrow night, by the way. I really do genuinely enjoy Joel Plaskett. Anyway.
So let's give us the final kind of pitch for the party and what that's all about, and we'll let you go.
Cool. We are on the air this Saturday. We're live, 7 to 9. We've got tapes, brand new band we haven't interviewed yet. They're an amazing rock band. The Contenders are a brand new band. They're straight out of high school. I was told that they sound like the Sheepdogs with a horn section.
Oh.
So I'm like, whoa, give me some of that.
We'll also be broadcasting our Andrew WK interview.
Yes, which we're very excited about. Andrew WK is an amazing fellow. And he will be here on March 29th.
Yes, he will be.
For a show.
You can check us out on Facebook.
Check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/thepartyonradio.
Yep.
Check us out on Twitter @thepartynl. Check out our unfortunately not done up website yet, partyfm.ca.
It's getting there.
We're getting there. And we're on YouTube and Instagram and that sort of thing. Like, we're on everything.
Yeah.
Come find us.
Good. All right, well, I guess that's it. Thanks a lot for coming on the show, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Much.
You guys are doing a great job with the show.
Thanks for showing this side of you to us. It's been a lot of fun.
All right, so we're going to go to break now, and when we get back, we're going to be talking to Executive Director of Finance and Services-elect Devin Grant.
Con los terroristas.
Do the party shake.
Every Saturday night from 7 to 9 p.m., join your hosts, Warren and Chelsea, for the party. Only on 93.5 CHMR FM.
The Memorial Walking Program is open to students, staff, and alumni. Let's go for a walk every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 12:30 to 1:30 p.m., starting at the Landing. To register, email tdlm00@mun.ca or call the Wellness Office at 864-2659. This announcement has been a public service of 93.5 CHMR FM.
Okay, so
who's saying from Cookstoke?
Why don't you do it? No, I should do it, I suppose, yeah.
Say we're from Cookstoke.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Ted Rowe.
And I'm Neil Rosenberg, and we're with Crooked Stovepipe.
And you're listening to CHMR.
93.5 FM.
We live in two different worlds, dear. That's why we're so far apart.
All right, and we're back. We're here talking to the incoming Executive Director of Finance and Services, Devin Grant. He'll be starting that position, signing the checks May 1st. He's the science rep on the Munsu Board of Directors right now, so he'll be expanding his repertoire a little bit in the next year or so. So, Devin, great to have you on the show.
Thanks very much for having me on.
Thanks for coming, Devin.
Thank you.
Yeah, so, all right, so for anyone who doesn't know you, do you want to talk a little bit about your experience in the student movement and with Munsu in general?
Yeah, totally. So I've been on the board for a year, currently on as one of the 4 faculty of science reps. And I've had the opportunity to serve on a bunch of committees in the university at that time, which has been one of the things that's really driven me in terms of representing students. So I've been sitting on Science Society, which is a group of science students representative from the various academic societies throughout the campus. And we meet with the Associate Dean and Dean of Science on a fairly regular basis. Also, I sit on Faculty Council of Science, and my main committee that I sit on, I guess, would be Senate Committee Undergraduate Studies, which is kind of the main decision-making body for undergraduate regulations and things like that. Right. So that's a really great chance to really advocate for students.
Definitely, definitely.
So, could you maybe explain just a little bit about the position, what the role of Executive Director of Finance and Services actually does, and then what we'll go from there is incorporate maybe your goals for the upcoming year?
Yeah, totally. So, in terms of what the position does, as the name suggests, there's obviously kind of two sides to the portfolio. So on the finance side, the main thing is developing the budget, dealing with the finances of the union, and the main thing that you have to do on that side of things is just really communicate with students and make sure that the budget is accurately reflecting the priorities that the student body has, to make sure that, their money is going to the things that are going to benefit them the most and things they want to see being developed the most. On the services side of things, it's dealing with the services of the union. So things like, the attic, the breezeway here at CHMR, walk safe, safe drive, the list goes on. Just making sure that those are running as effectively as possible, making sure that they're offering the products and services the students want to see. The entire job, as with most of the positions on the board, I think really comes down to making sure that the union is doing what students want to see it doing.
Absolutely. And so, what are the goals that you're trying to incorporate into that position for your first or your term as the?
Yeah, there are some new services that I'm really interested in trying to introduce, and these are things that I talked about a bit on the campaign trail as well. So things like introducing a used bookstore is probably the one that got the biggest positive response on the campaign trail. Students, I think, really want to see an outlet where they can save time and money with their textbooks. So that's something that I really like to see getting into place. There are some things that I talked about, like getting a tutor registry set up. Students can get help with their courses more easily. Also, there are some other things that I really want to work on in conjunction with the university, so things like getting cell phone chargers around campus. I want to also take a look at the recreation fee, which right now I think a lot of students don't really like the way it works, how you have to pay whenever you're enrolled, and then if you're not enrolled over the summer, you don't have to pay extra if you want to go to the gym, and it's really not tailored to what students want right now. So if we could see some change to that, I think that would be great.
Definitely. So that's great. I definitely like the idea of the used bookstore, because I feel like, if I'm getting a used book for $90, that's kind of weak. So what about some of the current services? The breezeway here at CHMR. What are some of your plans for those?
Yeah, totally. The main one obviously is food in the breezeway. That's one of the big things that everybody talks about. By the time that I'm done in the position, I want to see some kind of food down there. Whether or not we've gotten all the way to a restaurant at that point, we'll have to see. That's definitely a lengthy process that takes a lot of time and development.
Oh, absolutely.
But I don't think there's anything stopping us from getting some kind of food services down there, sometime throughout the next year. So that's definitely a big one. In terms of the attic, just doing some product surveys and seeing what students want to see in there. And also I really want to talk to the staff of all of our services and the people who use our services. So people like you guys running radio shows at CHMR, and just see what sort of the little things are that when you're looking at a broad overview of it, you might miss. Whereas if you talk to the people who are using it every day and who are working there every day, they're going to see the day-to-day things that need to be touched on and could be improved, that could really help. So for example, I've been talking to the staff over at the attic saying they really need a new POS. That's point of sale for anyone who doesn't know, and saying how they could really use 2 caches over there instead of 1 to really speed up service.
Oh, I think they could.
Yeah, so there's things like that that at a broad overview you might miss. So I think that talking to staff and talking to the people who use the services could really help us to really streamline those things.
Right. So you seem to have put a lot of thought into this, Devin. So I'm curious, kind of just like, why the student movement and why this job and where does your passion derive from, and does that have anything to do with kind of your future and stuff like that? Why? Because it's a really powerful thing.
No, yeah, absolutely. My trail to Munsu, I guess, was a little winding. It started out with stuff as simple as I had a pretty good grasp on the calendar in first year, and my friends would be coming and asking me for advice in terms of, what courses do I need to take to make sure I'm on the path for this degree, and all this kind of stuff. And I really just enjoyed helping people out and making sure that they were getting to do the things that they needed. And then I was for a year vice president of the UN Society here at MUN, and for a short time I was president of that society as well. And that leadership role I really enjoyed, and I really appreciated being able to give back to the student body that way. And as it turns out, it was actually one of the current science reps and the incoming executive director of advocacy, Sean Kennedy, who I actually worked with 2 summers ago, who first suggested to me, you should look into getting involved with MUNSU. And I looked into it and eventually decided to run for science rep, and the rest is history, I guess.
Here we are today.
Yeah, continued involvement and just getting as involved as I can with it.
Right. All right. So now, one thing I want to ask: as director of finance and services, you'll obviously be chairing the finance and services committee, which, for anyone who doesn't know, that's where kind of a lot of the more centralized discussions happen, is on the committees. So what are some of the goals and results you want to see? What do you want to work on heading up that committee next year?
Totally. I think that is a really good place where we can really talk about the ideas that we have for the services, talk about what students would like to see for the services. One of the things that we've done recently is we've established a Breezeway working group as sort of a subcommittee of the Finance and Services Committee, I guess. And we're already seeing a lot of good ideas coming out of that. It's a bit more of a casual forum where, people just sit around and we chat about the changes that we'd like to see at the Breezeway. We talk about some concrete steps that we can take in improving that service. And those types of, brainstorming discussion sessions have really helped us to start developing a plan for what we're going to see in the Breezeway over the coming year. And I think that conversations like that should be more regular in the committee meetings, just talking about all of our services and possible changes and things we've been hearing from students around the university. I think that if we could get those lines of communication really open, I think that that's when the committee's going to work best.
Right.
And so what have you, one thing that I've always noticed is there is continuity from year to year to year to year. So, and because you've sat on the Finance and Services Committee, what have you learned from Travis, the current Finance and Services, that you want to embody yourself? Like, what are strengths that you recognize in him that you think need to continue on into the position?
Totally. I think one of the really impressive things that you see when you talk to Travis about his position is just the breadth of knowledge about all the services that he just somehow keeps contained up in his head. That's something that I really want to have a lot of discussions with him about, going into my term, just making sure that all of that knowledge doesn't get lost when Travis is done in the position. I want to make sure that's maintained. And for anyone who knows Travis, if you are around him anytime near budget time, you'll hear him speaking his usual line of, the budget is a living, breathing document that should accurately reflect the intentions and priorities of the student body. And as much as we kind of make fun of him for using it as his line, it's totally true, right?
Yeah.
That is 100% what a budget should be at the end of the day.
Yeah, I love it.
And yeah, he backs it up totally. And I think that that's one of the most important things that I can continue following, is that when you're setting up a budget, it has to 100% reflect the priorities of the student body. That's why it's there.
Right, definitely. So now, one sort of more of a big picture question. If MUNSU was kind of operating to its fullest potential, working at 100%, what do you think that would look like? What would that look like to you?
The main thing for me would just be the amount of involvement and communication that would be happening. I think the structure that we have set up right now can work really, really well. I think it works really well right now, and a lot of people work incredibly hard. But I would like to see 20, 30, 40 people at every committee meeting, not just board members, but students coming out and having their voices heard. I think that if those lines of communication were more open, and if not just board members, but the student body were getting involved with these committees, with board meetings, and with discussions about, for my position in particular, about our services and about our budget, I think that that's when MUNSU is at its best.
Great. We had to cut this interview short, listeners out there, and there is some questions that we're not going to get to. I do want you to, if you don't mind, speaking to past Devin, or Devin from a year ago, or Devin from before the election, and advice you would give yourself or anybody who would want to pursue involvement with MUNSU, what kind of advice you would give them?
Sure, yeah. I guess the main one would be that don't be afraid to approach students. They're people just like us. I'm a bit of a mix of an extrovert and introvert in certain ways, but approaching people is not something that comes particularly easily to me. But of course, during the campaigning process, and as you would know, it's something that you do, and you constantly get out and you talk to students as much as you can.
Just work in that food court.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things that you learn is that the majority of people that you go up and talk to are super receptive to just being talked to and having their opinion asked and having these conversations. And I think that that's something that, all of our board members can learn from, to just get out there and talk to students, and that once you get going, it's not that scary, right? You just go up, you have a nice chat with some nice people, and, you learn about what students want to see.
I'm really glad you mentioned that. It was so nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
Oh, that first time I put it off.
I remember the first table I went up to, I was
Yeah, the first 2 or 3 are terrifying, and then after that you're like, oh yeah, no, this is fine.
Yeah, people are really approachable.
Yeah.
So the final question, we'll have to let you go, and you can tag Robert in. What would you say if you knew that every single union member was listening right now? What would be the one thing what message you really want to hit home?
I would just say, talk to me. It's every student on this campus at some point or another has been like, oh, I wish they had blank at MUN, or like, oh, I wish I could do this at MUN. And those are exactly the types of things that someone in my position wants to hear, right? Because those are the types of services that we can be offering to students. Those are things that we can make happen. And I think that if, everyone who ever had one of those ideas was like, oh, I should send an email off to the Executive Director of Finance and Services, or, oh, I should pop into the Munsu office and have a chat about this, then all of a sudden there's this wealth of student knowledge that exists through the union. And I think that's true for, every single position on the board, both executive and non-executive. So yeah, talk to me, talk to us would be the message.
I love that, Devin. Well, thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
I wish we could have you on here for a bit longer, but we are pressing for time right now.
Yeah. All right. So you guys want to switch spots?
Cool.
Or you want to hop on over in the hot seat?
Thanks a lot, Devin.
There's the typical rustling of the pages that happens every week.
So I'm really excited to introduce Robert Leamon. Robert and I had met a year ago at the CFS Provincial AGM in Corner Brook. We were roomies at the CFS Skills this year. I've learned a lot from Robert in the time that I've known him, and Robert has a lot of experience and has been involved in the student movement starting in 2009 in Corner Brook, moving from there all the way over here. And I like to think that you've had an effect on people all across the province and in Labrador. So thank you very much for coming on today, Robert.
Thanks for having me.
No, thanks, Robert. It's great to have you here. So now, first off, for anyone who doesn't know you, do you want to maybe talk a little bit about your experience and maybe how, why, when you got into student politics?
Sure. I have been around for a lot of years, so I'll try not to drag on too long. But my story is that I got involved in the Grenfell campus student union at 2009 when I first started university. Their elections happened in the fall semester, so I actually had the opportunity to run as a councillor at large very first thing of that year. So within my first couple of weeks of being a student, I was elected to the students union there. So I was in that position for that year, and I ran for an executive position at the end of my first year there, lost that race. And then took a step back for a semester from the Students' Union, but after realizing what I had been missing and how much I really cared about all the issues of the Students' Union, I decided to run for the position of president of the Student Union there in a by-election in my second year, and was able to get reelected to that position twice, so serving a total of 2.5 years in that position. As well, I've worked with CFSNL and was provincial campaigns coordinator for 2 years. And in terms of my experience over the past year, I moved to this campus a little over a year ago to pursue political science. And since coming out here, I was able to serve as a staff member for Munsu as a campaigns assistant, working directly with the current director of campaigns, as well as being able to work as a student senator representing students on that body. I've actually been doing that for 3 years. So that's I guess a brief overview of my experience. So, been around for a while.
And you're really passionate about it. Was this something that's always been involved, why are you so involved in this? You seem like a passionate person. That energy could be channeled into a lot of great things, but you've chosen this path. So why would you have picked that, and does it have anything to do with maybe your future? Do you see yourself being involved in this a really long time?
Yeah, so in terms of when I started in the Students' Union, it was more of, I've always seen myself as a person who wants to be engaged in the community and helping people as much as possible, and has a lot of passion for a lot of different things. So when I first got involved in the Students' Union, it was sort of under that mindset of just sort of trying to get involved in as many different things as possible and help as many different people as I could in any way. But when I took a step back from the Students' Union at the end of my first year after losing in an executive election and sort of stepping away from that role for a little while, I realized just how much I cared about issues that are specific to students. It was actually, I had a conversation with other students who had gotten elected and were serving at the Students' Union there about some of the things that they were working on, and having been away from it for a couple months, I've realized that actually this was something that I cared a lot about, specific students issues. So I knew that it was something that I really wanted to focus on. In terms of going forward from now, like luckily and thankfully to all the students of Memorial, I've been elected to this position and look very much forward to serving in this for the next year. But I do plan on graduating at some point. Next year will be the end of I'll have been in university for 6 years next year. So I do plan on finishing at the end of next year. So in terms of like a broader sense of what I'd like to be doing, it will definitely be something related to social justice, and I look forward to seeing how that plays out.
Very cool, very cool. So now next year, we do still have you for the year. What are some of your biggest goals? Maybe like a top 3 or so for your position next year.
Sure. So I think the first major goal that I would have is just increasing a sense of ownership that students have of the Students' Union, trying to get more students involved in the processes that we have in terms of developing the campaigns and actually implementing those campaigns. In terms of creating a sense of ownership, I think when students actually have a say, or more of a say, in the ideas of developing campaigns or or what campaigns we're actually doing, students are more likely to want to see those kinds of things succeed. If something's your idea, you want to make sure that it actually works. So by bringing in as many students into those kinds of processes, like increasing membership and engagement in the Student Rights and Actions Committee, then I think that we'll be able to increase that sense of ownership. And that's something that I want to build on my past experience in doing that kind of work and apply that to this campus. My second goal would be to try to encourage as many students as possible to basically utilize me as a resource for the kinds of things that they want to see from Memorial, because as we've briefly talked about, like I've been within the Memorial structure and been involved with students unions for 5 years now, going into my 6th. So I do have a lot of experience, and I'm hoping that I'm able to use that and channel that into just basically helping students take action on issues that are important to them. There's a lot of things that students care about and want to change about Memorial and make lives for students better, and I feel like I've got a lot of experience, and I just basically want to be able to have conversations with students and be able to work on those things for and with students. As well, one of the big things that I talked about on my platform was focusing on stress for students, because that's something that about 90% of students said that they were completely overwhelmed by everything that they had to do last year. So stress is a very big issue on this campus. So I look forward to actually working on some of the things that I talked about in the campaigns in terms of some of the direct measures like improving the counseling centers, focusing on finances and affordability of education, so students aren't focused on those things. They're actually able to focus more so on their academics, and as well starting some of the processes to hopefully work towards the 5-day break.
Yeah, so I'm gonna kind of briefly explain what I think the position is. I'm the executive director of campaigns. Not only oversees the campaigns as yourself, you have a committee that oversees stuff. You have like local campaigns such as the crosswalk safety things, and then there's provincial and national campaigns like the Unlearn campaign and the No Means No campaign. So could you talk a little bit about the nature of a local campaign versus a provincial or a federal campaign, and kind of how those campaigns kind of start?
Yeah. So one of the important things about how campaigns start is that whether it's a local campaign or a provincial campaign or a national campaign, all of the campaigns that we work on originate from issues that face students. So students on our campuses, or particularly at this campus, realize that we have issues, that as students we face particular issues, and we use the Students' Union as a mechanism to actually take action on those issues. And in terms of like how the structure works, in terms of being local, provincial, or national, the MUN Students Union is a member of the Canadian Federation of Students. As I mentioned, I have a lot of experience with that organization. So all of the students at Memorial are also in turn members of the Canadian Federation of Students. So if at any time there are things that students want to be working on that need to be addressed either at a local, provincial, or national level, that's what both the local Students Union and the National Canadian Federation of Students provincial organization, that's what it's there for. There are some things that are important to students that need the Students Union here to work directly with the administration to take action on, so those would be more so some local things, but as well there's things that a Students Union on their own aren't able to actually effectively work on. So when we're dealing with the provincial government to work on things like affordability of education, it's important that we're being a part of a bigger provincial organization. So really it just depends on what the particular issue is, but ultimately it does all relate back to being issues that students on campuses find important to them.
And I imagine some of these campaigns could start locally and evolve and adapt into a national campaign, and maybe even vice versa.
That's probably how most of them
and
start.
some would start and maybe resonate longer in some places than others.
Right, so we're going to jump back to this this sort of election season. What do you think now? I mean, you obviously won, so you clearly ran a great campaign. But what do you think some of the maybe the strengths and the weaknesses were, and maybe even what kind of gave you the edge in this race?
I have to put a big thank you out to my campaigns team for this one. I had a lot of people helping me out as much as they could in terms of just going around and talking to other students and encouraging them to get out and vote. And as well, I had people positioned in certain areas, just talking to students and handing out my handouts and those kind of things. So big thank you to my team in that regard. I think as well, it also comes back to my experience with students on this campus, and as well with students as general. I know a lot of the issues that are facing students, and I also have a lot of experience to actually take action on those kinds of things. So I think it was a combination of both being able to be on campus and focus and work really hard on campaign days, and like encouraging people to learn more about the Students Union, to get out and vote, as well as my campaigns team doing that work as well.
And I just furthermore on the campaign thing, because I think it's really interesting to run a campaign. What kind of and because people are constantly like moving on, and we're only here for such a limited time, if somebody was going to run their very first campaign, like what would you tell like little Robert Leamon in 2009 before he ran his first campaign? Advice that you would give yourself, like, because it sounds like you really emphasize the team. So maybe you could speak to the importance of a team, or.
Well, I think what I would talk about in terms of getting involved in your Students Union even before the election process is that we need to be talking more about the fact that you can get involved in your Students Union more than just running in an election and being on the board of directors. There's tons and tons and tons of other ways that you can get involved in your Students Union. We have the committee structures that meet bi-weekly. For me, my position in particular, the Students' Rights and Actions Committee. So if a student is interested in actually getting involved in the Students Union, but it isn't during election season, then by all means, drop by to one of those meetings. Or it doesn't even have to be just bi-weekly. Feel free to drop by my office anytime when I start there on May 1st, or as well, like, I handed out a lot of my personal information in terms of like Twitter and Facebook. I'm always open to chatting with students, and my email will be campaigns@munsu.ca, so like always shoot me an email anytime. I'm always open to having a chat. So yeah, I guess that would be my biggest thing. It would just be that you don't have to wait until an election to get involved in your Students Union. Just we're always here. Just get involved.
Yeah, boom, I love that.
So I guess we got one more question before we go. We're actually going to leave ourselves some time to shamelessly plug our brand at the end. So same question as Devin. If you could say something right now and you knew that all 13,000 undergrad MUNSU members were going to hear it, what would you say?
Get involved. It's your union. And that I guess that just reiterates the points that I just made. Like, the Students Union isn't just a board of directors that gets elected at one point of the year. It's a union of all of the students at Memorial University, and we're working together to take action on issues that are important to us as students. So I guess my big thing would just be, don't ever be afraid to just get involved, or just come have a conversation about the kinds of things that you can do, or the kinds of things that I can do as director of campaigns to help you do what you want to do. So that would be my biggest thing. Just don't be afraid to get involved.
Thank you very much.
That's all great. Thanks a lot for coming on the show, Robert.
And you'll stick around for a couple minutes because we need to take a group shot of all of our lovely guests tonight.
We're gonna start posting pics of us and our guests. So that is it for this week. So you can check us out on Facebook, Rustling Pages with Max and Chris, or Twitter, just at Rustling Pages. We're on YouTube too, but that's got a much longer codified URL that I definitely am not going to read.
And hey, fire me a message on Facebook sometime. I'm willing to chat.
Yeah, totally. Any suggestions? Anything you wanna hear us talk about on the show? Anytime maybe you want to come on the show and talk about something, just reach out to us. We're all over campus. We're all over the social media game. So
and once again, thank you, Warren and Chelsea from the party, CHMR, and Devin and Robert. People out there, you guys care about your union.
Yeah, it's good.
Clicks.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff.
This has been our time on CHMR.
Yeah,
and by our, I mean all of our. That includes you listeners. Are we still on?
This is 93.5 CHMR FM.